The microwave door caught the light just enough to reflect Eliza's smirk as she held up her glass. "To freedom," she said, tilting the imported gin she insisted was limited to a few hundred bottles in the UK only. "Tristan says they want me to oversee the Paris satellite first, then London proper. It's all so exclusive. I mean, they don't just hand these things out, you know." I didn't say anything, just stood there by the coffee machine, pretending to check the water reservoir like I hadn't heard the whole monologue before. The gin, the jewelry, the dress, none of it bought with her money. Every piece screamed, "Look at me," while she tried to pretend she was already living in the life she was bragging about. Eliza leaned against the countertop, glass in one hand, phone in the other, recording a boomerang of her toast. She laughed at something she saw on screen, then turned her attention back to me. "You know," she said, swirling the gin, "it's a little sad. You pulling back from the firm like this. Marcus Rivers, the name everyone used to whisper around tables. And now? Retreating to what exactly? Hobbies? Golf?" I turned to look at her, just briefly. "You always did enjoy the echo of your own voice." She waved her glass. "It's not a criticism. I'm just saying. I mean, Tristan says this all the time. Some people rise when they're challenged. Others drift. Drift. That word lingered in the air like bad perfume." She glanced at my watch, her old habit of checking it like she might see how many hours I had left of usefulness. "This." She lifted her wrist to show off some chunky gold bracelet, which I recognized from a recent expense report-marked client networking dinner. "This was a gift. Not from you, obviously." I just nodded, like I was filing it away. Because I was. She poured herself another drink. "Honestly, the best thing you've done lately is step aside. Let the people with real ambition take over." I said nothing, just turned back to the coffee machine and pressed the rinse cycle. She took that as permission to keep going. "Tristan always said I was wasted here, that if I'd met him sooner, my life would have been." She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. The dress she was wearing, I'd seen the charge for it. She had put it on my card 3 days ago and filed it under client presentation. There was no presentation. There hadn't been in months. I could feel her watching me, waiting for a reaction. Any reaction. "Anyway," she said, brushing imaginary lint off her hip, "I'll probably be in London by summer. Or sooner if things go well. Don't worry, though. I won't touch your legacy." I finally turned to her, looked her straight in the eye. "There's nothing left for you to touch." She laughed, genuinely amused. "Is that so?" "It is." And I walked out, left her standing in the break room with her imported gin, her mirrored reflection, and her fading performance. She didn't know it yet, but the curtain had already started to fall. By the time I made it back to my office, Eliza's perfume still clung faintly to the hallway, something floral and expensive she'd discovered in a London pop-up and never stopped name-dropping. I shut the door, locked it out. The silence was instant and absolute, the kind I used to crave. I crossed the room and sat behind my desk. For a moment, I just looked at the drawer. Middle right. The one I used to keep pins in before I realized the real stories lived in paper. I pulled it open slowly. The letter sat right where I'd left it. Cream-colored envelope, firm weight, the firm's internal crest embossed on the flap. No return address. Just my name, Marcus W. Rivers, printed in clean black ink. Inside, confirmation. Eliza's card had been terminated as of last Friday. All linked accounts under her name, deactivated. The executive tier travel perks she'd abused. First-class flights booked under project codes she didn't understand. Spa receipts disguised as hospitality outreach. All gone. I unfolded the letter and placed it next to the last 3 expense reports she had filed. Each one neater than the last, like she thought presentation could erase excess. I glanced through the highlights. A 5-star hotel suite in New York, booked for an art event that never existed. Jewelry, client appreciation token. Designer shoes, disguised as ergonomic upgrades for presentation needs. She had always been clever enough to lie just beneath the threshold of scrutiny, but never clever enough to realize someone might finally be paying attention. Across the room, her office door was still cracked open. I could see the tops of her award plaques, the shelf of polished glass trophies she had stacked carefully at an angle just for visibility. Most of them were for events she hadn't planned. She had a talent for showing up at the right time, shaking the right hands, and letting other people sweat behind the scenes. If charm were currency, Eliza would have been a billionaire. But this wasn't charm anymore. This was fraud, or something very close to it. I opened the cabinet behind me and pulled out a bottle, not gin. Something quiet, dry. I poured a finger's worth into the heavy glass I kept for late nights, then sat down again. This wasn't grief. Not mourning. It was ceremony. Quiet, intentional. Like shutting off a light in a house you've already moved out of. I raised the glass toward her name on the report. To appearances, I said softly. And I drank. Behind me, the city moved on like it always did. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't follow. I filed. The server room wasn't really an attic, but it felt like one. Cool, dim, tucked away behind a frosted glass panel most people forgot existed. The placard on the door still read, Archival Access. Internal use only, a label no one had updated in at least 10 years. I keyed in the code myself. Eliza never learned it. She'd always scoffed at the idea of walking down here. Said the place smelled like old wires and missed deadlines. She wasn't wrong. I stepped inside, the air immediately colder. Not just from the ventilation system, but from the weight of what lived in here. Old drives, archived footage, reports no one thought anyone would ever look at again. But I looked. That's why I came. I walked past the server racks to the old desktop in the corner. Logged in. The password hadn't changed in years. My mother's maiden name and a year no one asked about. It took me less than a minute to pull up the archive folders. Each one labeled by department, date, and initials. I went to events, PR, filtered by the last 6 years, and scrolled. There they were. Events Eliza claimed she planned personally. Solo initiative, she called them in meetings. Elegant black-tie dinners, gallery openings, donation drives with embossed signage and curated guest lists. I clicked into the receipts, catering orders placed by junior staff, invoices signed off by other people. She'd stapled her name to their work and smiled for the camera. One file stood out. A necklace purchased 2 years ago, supposedly a gift from a satisfied international client. The receipt said otherwise. She bought it with a firm card the same week she'd told me it was a token of appreciation from a man who really valued my eye for design. The man didn't exist. The vendor, however, did. I kept scrolling. Signed contracts. Expense approvals. A dozen versions of Eliza, slipping past scrutiny with practiced ease. She hadn't even tried to hide the patterns, not really. Then I opened the audio folder. Staff Christmas party, 3 years ago. I remembered the night, vaguely. I'd left early, worn out from meetings. She had stayed. Of course she did. I played the clip. I mean, Marcus is fine, but let's be honest, he peaked 10 years ago. Half the partners don't even know what he does anymore. Laughter. I swear, if he didn't have a name on the door, we'd be calling him the office mascot. More laughter. Her voice, unmistakable. I paused the file. It didn't sting. It registered more like confirmation. A delayed echo of something I'd already suspected. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. The first call went to a number I hadn't dialed in years. Jeff Crenshaw, a familiar voice answered. It's Marcus. I need your help. Severance prep. Quietly. Non-disclosure enforcement will be essential. A pause. Eliza. She's going to need a pin. Second call. Different number. A younger voice this time. Hey, Marcus. What's up? Change all building access by morning. Eliza Rivers is no longer authorized past the front desk. Silence. Then, understood. I ended the call and looked around the room one last time. This place used to store memories. Now it stored evidence. I shut the system down and walked out. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt ready. The notification came while I was stirring sugar into my coffee. A ping from Sam in HR, followed by a single line of text. You've got to see this. I clicked the link. Instagram. Eliza's account. She'd finally posted. The photo was classic Eliza, filtered just enough, cropped precisely. She stood beneath Big Ben in a beige coat I'd seen once in our shared closet but never on her, one arm hooked through Tristan's, the other lifted in mid-laugh, glass of something bubbly raised toward the sky. The caption read, New chapter. New city. New everything. Hashtag finally free, hashtag Rio Men, hashtag London calling. I stared at it for a long second. Then I took a sip of coffee. She had always loved that phrase, new chapter, as if life was a novel she could rewrite at will, with no regard for the mess left on previous pages. I zoomed in. The handbag on her shoulder, burgundy leather, subtle gold emblem, had once sat on our Amazon wishlist for a full week before disappearing. She'd claimed she changed her mind. Said it didn't suit her. I checked the timestamp on the post. Just past noon in London. I opened the firm's procurement portal and keyed in the last 4 digits of the card that used to fund her client-facing expenses. 10 minutes of digging, and there it was, the handbag, ordered from a boutique reseller, overnight shipping to our home address 2 weeks ago. I flagged the charge. Then I locked the transaction. Then I disputed it. Then I froze the account entirely. A few keystrokes and Eliza's final access to the firm's financial tether, the one she thought would stay open just long enough for her London rebirth, vanished. I refreshed the Instagram post once more. It had over 200 likes already. The comments were as predictable as they were nauseating. So proud of you. You deserve everything. Tristan is lucky. Lucky. He had no idea. I copied the post URL and pasted it into a private archive folder I had named Final Phase. Then I slid my phone away and leaned back in my chair. Let her celebrate. Let her clink her glass and hashtag her heart out. Let her think the money still flows. Tomorrow, the reckoning begins. And this time, the echo chamber she lives in, the one full of followers, flattery, and filtered nonsense, won't protect her. Because the next notification she gets won't be a like. It'll be a lock. Eliza walked into the lobby like she owned the place. The Corinthia, London, polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, concierge in a tailored vest. The kind of place that existed more for Instagram than sleep. Perfect for a grand arrival, especially when you believe the world owed you applause. She breezed past the floral arrangements with Tristan in tow, his blazer collar stiff and face already carrying the weight of her orbit. Reservation for Eliza Rivers, she announced at the front desk, drawing the attention of at least 2 other guests nearby. The receptionist smiled, typed, paused. Ah, yes. We do have the reservation, Miss Rivers. May I please see the card used for the booking? Eliza reached into her purse, cool and casual. She pulled out the platinum card, the same one she'd used for a dozen flights, spa visits, last-minute gallery donations. She handed it over with a bright smile. The receptionist swiped it. Declined. Eliza blinked. Try again, she said, still smiling. The woman did. Still declined. Eliza's jaw shifted. A tiny twitch, gone in a blink. She produced another card. This one sleek, matte black. It had been her backup, for emergencies, she used to say. Swiped. Declined. I don't understand, she said, laughing lightly now, the sound brittle around the edges. There must be a mistake. These are business accounts. Would you happen to have another form of payment? The receptionist asked gently. Tristan stepped back half a pace, pretending to glance at a painting on the wall. The line behind them grew. A young couple whispered audibly. Phones were out. One girl tilted hers just slightly toward the scene. Eliza fished through her bag, produced a third card. A personal one she hadn't used in months. Declined again. Her voice rose slightly. This is ridiculous. I have more than enough in that account. The receptionist's tone never changed. I'm very sorry, ma'am. If there's another card or payment method, I'm calling my husband, Eliza said, pressing her phone to her ear with shaking hands. But Marcus didn't pick up. Instead, a male voice answered on the third ring. Calm. Professional. This is Charles Lambert, legal counsel for Mr. Rivers. If this call pertains to financial access, I'm afraid I must inform you that all accounts under your name were revoked as of last week. Documentation has been provided to all involved institutions. If you have questions, please refer to your prenup agreement, Section 12, Clause B. Eliza's face drained of color. You're joking. I am not. But this is illegal. No, it's not. Goodbye. The line clicked dead. Her hand fell to her side. For a long second, she just stood there, frozen. Tristan shifted his weight uncomfortably. Is everything okay? Eliza didn't answer. She just stared ahead, like the gravity around her had changed. The receptionist spoke again. We do require payment to proceed with check-in. If needed, we can also provide recommendations for more budget-conscious accommodations nearby. Someone snickered in line. A teenager with a phone pointed subtly toward the scene whispered, Isn't she the one from Insta? Hashtag finally free. Tristan cleared his throat and reached for his wallet, his face crimson. I'll just the one night, please. Standard room. No extras, Eliza mumbled. He didn't argue. They were handed keys without another word. As they walked away, someone behind them whispered, Guess she's finally free of her Amex too. Eliza didn't look back, but the internet already was. By morning, Eliza had reapplied her makeup and recurled her hair, like the previous night had been a fluke that could be brushed away with setting spray. Tristan, however, looked different, distant, like a man who had just seen the edges of a fire and decided he wasn't interested in stepping any closer. They sat at a small marble table in the hotel lobby, coffee between them, untouched. So she said, trying to keep her voice light. Rough start. But once Marcus comes to his senses. Tristan cut her off. Eliza. His voice wasn't loud, but it was final. She blinked. What? I'm not paying for the rest of this trip. She gave a short, nervous laugh. Oh, come on. You already did last night. He didn't laugh. That was a courtesy. I assumed it was just a banking mix-up. Her smile faltered. It is. Marcus froze the cards. He'll come around. Tristan leaned back, folding his arms. You didn't tell me you were completely dependent on him. I'm not, she snapped. It's complicated. He raised an eyebrow. Is it? Tristan, I came here to start something new with you. I left everything. No, he said, his voice colder now. You came here because you thought the money would follow. You didn't say you were fleeing a crumbling marriage. You said it was evolving. People were starting to notice now. A few heads turned. A man nearby lowered his newspaper just enough to listen. Eliza leaned forward. I gave up everything to be here. Everything. Tristan stood. And I didn't sign up to bankroll someone else's fantasy. Her voice rose. So what? You're just going to leave me here? The concierge shifted awkwardly. Staff nearby started pretending to clean areas that didn't need it. A woman with a GoPro strapped to her chest paused by the cafe bar. Sorry, she whispered to her friend. Just filming my day, not them. But her camera was tilted directly at them. I have a career, Eliza hissed. I had opportunities. Tristan shrugged. Then call them. You said you were indispensable, didn't you? Eliza's hands curled into fists. You don't get to walk away like this. Actually, he said, adjusting his coat, I do. And he did. She stood there, trembling, then yelling. I left my husband for you. More heads turned. Phones discreetly raised. The vlogger with the GoPro mouthed. Oh my God. I gave up everything. You spent everything, someone muttered. She whipped around. What did you say? The concierge stepped in then, firm but polite. Ms. Rivers, please lower your voice. This is a shared space. Her eyes were wild now. She grabbed her phone, fumbling for something, anything. Hundreds of miles away, my own phone buzzed with an encrypted message. A silent video clip. Eliza, in full meltdown. In the hotel lobby. Her voice sharp, her gestures frantic. Tristan's back already vanishing into the crowd. I didn't watch it twice. I simply saved it. Filed it away. No gloating. No smile. Just another document in the folder marked Final Phase. Eliza's cab pulled up to the house just after 9 in the evening. She was still in the same beige trench from London, creased now from travel, collar askew. The driver asked if she needed help with her luggage, but she waved him off. Her eyes were fixed on the front porch. Something was off. There was no light on in the entryway, something I always left on when we were expecting someone. But maybe the timer was off. Maybe it was just that kind of day. She reached into her purse for her key fob, then paused. A note. Taped to the front door. 2 lines. Plain paper. My handwriting. By legal declaration, this is no longer your residence. Do not attempt entry. No flourish. No signature. Just fact. Eliza's laugh came out sharp and thin. She pulled out her phone, opened the smart home app, and pressed the garage door button. Nothing happened. She tried again. Still nothing. She stepped closer, tapped the security keypad beside the door, and entered the code, our anniversary date. Denied. She tried it again, slower this time. Denied. A neighbor across the street, I think his name was Rick, a quiet guy who always watered his lawn too late, stepped out to retrieve his trash bins. He saw her, hesitated, then walked over, keeping his distance. Evening, he said. Eliza forced a smile. Hi, Rick. Weird. I think the security system's glitching. He cleared his throat. Oh. Yeah. About that. She straightened. About what? I saw the moving truck earlier this week. Thought you guys were, relocating? Her voice cracked. Moving truck? Yeah, bunch of guys loading stuff. Marcus was here. Looked like he was coordinating. She stared at him, mouth slightly open. He shifted uncomfortably. They were here all day Tuesday. Cleaned the place out. Didn't leave much behind. She turned away from him without another word, walked back to the curb, pulled up her phone again. Voicemails. One from a storage company she didn't recognize. She tapped it. Hello, Ms. Rivers. This is a courtesy notice that your personal storage unit is now overdue for payment. As stated in the agreement, the unit will be subject to auction within 7 days if the balance is not paid in full. Please contact us. She hung up. She hadn't rented a unit, which meant I had. And then I transferred the contents, her wardrobe, her framed magazine features, her imported wine glasses, into a space under her name, and stopped paying. She was locked out of the house, locked out of her life, and now at risk of losing the only physical pieces she had left of the one she thought she controlled. Her fingers trembled as she tried to call me. Straight to voicemail. She looked up at the windows. The lights were off. The house didn't recognize her anymore. Because it wasn't hers. Not legally. Not emotionally. Not anymore. The cabin sat at the edge of the woods just outside Charlottesville, tucked behind pine trees in silence. We used to go there during the early years, when we still thought space meant peace, not avoidance. Eliza never liked the place much. Said it felt too off the grid, like it didn't recognize her importance. But today, it was her last hope. I heard the tires crunch on the gravel before I saw her. Through the cabin window, I watched her rental car pull up. No more black SUVs or town cars, just a mid-sized sedan with a scuff bumper. She sat behind the wheel for a few moments before finally stepping out. She didn't knock. Just opened the door and walked in. Marcus, she said softly. I was already seated at the small dining table, a legal envelope resting in front of me, a tablet beside it. Eliza, I nodded. You found it. She looked around, like she half expected the furniture to start judging her. I didn't know where else to go. You figured I'd be here eventually. I didn't come to fight. Good, I said, sliding the envelope toward her. Then this should be simple. She didn't reach for it. You changed everything without telling me. Locked me out of our home. Correction, my home. And I didn't change anything. I just stopped pretending. Her voice broke a little. I was upset. I didn't mean all the things I said. Tristan was a mistake. I tilted the tablet toward her. Paused on a frame from the lobby meltdown, her shouting, Tristan mid-walk away. I tapped the screen, and the audio started. I gave up everything. You spent everything. I paused it again. You were always recording me? She asked. No. But the internet was. And some things, Eliza, I didn't need to hear again to understand. She folded her arms, still standing. So this is revenge. No, I said. This is resolution. I was scared, she said, quieter now. You were pulling back from work, the firm was changing, and I thought maybe I needed a backup plan. You made one. With my money. She swallowed. I thought you'd come after me. That you'd fight for me. I did. For years. You just weren't paying attention. She stepped closer. I'm sorry. Too late, I said. Her eyes started to well. Marcus, please. I know I made mistakes, but I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to lose you. I gestured to the envelope. Inside is the separation agreement. Asset division, property release, personal liability waivers. It's clean. You sign, we're done. You don't sign, we go to court. Either way, this ends. She stared at the envelope. Didn't touch it. I loved you, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Not right away. I know, I finally said. But you loved the version of me that kept giving. When that stopped, so did everything else. She sat down then. Not gracefully, heavily. Like gravity had tripled. I have nothing left. That's not my fault. I didn't think you had it in you. I leaned forward. That's the part that hurts the least. She looked away. The silence between us stretched. Not hostile. Just final. After a minute, I stood, picked up the envelope and the tablet, and walked to the door. When she didn't move, I opened it. She looked at me one last time. Is this really it? It was it a long time ago, I said. You just didn't notice. And then I closed the door behind her. She came back like she still belonged. Same driveway. Same confident stride. But everything was different now. The car pulled in slow, like she was half hoping something had changed. That maybe, by some miracle, I had a change of heart. That the locks would click open the second she touched the doorknob, and she could pretend this whole thing was just a bad dream with a clean ending. I watched it all from my laptop. One camera angle on the porch, another trained on the driveway. Both streaming live to a secure app one had installed weeks earlier, just after I changed all the access codes. She never saw the installation van. I'd scheduled it the morning after she left for London. She got out of the rental and approached the house with purpose. still dressed like someone important, black trench, oversized sunglasses, though the illusion had started to fray at the seams. The hem of her coat was wrinkled. Her hair looked like it hadn't seen a stylist in days. She paused at the porch, looked up at the camera. She saw it now. I sipped my bourbon. She reached for the keypad, punched in the code. Access denied. She tried again. Slower this time. Same result. That's when she saw the second note, taped just beneath the doorbell. This property is under exclusive legal occupancy. No further entry permitted. Violations will be reported. She pulled the note off and crumpled it in her hand like it was supposed to mean something, like she still had a say. Then her phone rang. She answered before the first full ring. Hello. I couldn't hear her side, but I already knew the voice on the other end. It was the storage unit manager. She listened for about 30 seconds. Then her expression collapsed. Whatever pride she'd been holding onto buckled right there on the porch. She started pacing, one hand pressed against her forehead, as darting like she was scanning the street for some way out. Then she sat on the front steps, phone still in her lap, the sun catching on the lens of the security camera pointed directly at her. No makeup, no posture, no curated persona. Just Eliza. And for the first time in a long time, she looked small. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, and stared at the gravel like it might rearrange itself into a solution. Then she buried her face in her hands. I watched her shoulders shake once. Then again. No tears that I could see. But the sobs didn't need translation. After a while, she just sat there. Still. Like if she stayed long enough, maybe the door would open again. It didn't. I finished my drink. Moved the cursor to the top corner of the live feed. Hovered for a moment. Then clicked the X. The window closed. The screen went dark. And that was that.